very good evening. You're watching India Global. I'm Gaurie, Dwivedi. Over the course of the next 60 minutes, we get you all stories that matter to the global Indian. But first up, as always, the headlines. Pakistan government promotes Army Chief General Asim Munir. He has now been made Field Marshal, the first since Ayub Khan in 1968, even as India continues its diplomatic outreach following the success of Operation Sindoor. India's nuclear energy sector is thrown open to foreign investors. Up to 49% of FDI can be allowed in India's nuclear sector, paving the way for greater energy stability for India. Huge rift between Bangladesh Army Chief and interim advisor Mohammad Yunus. Everything from release of Islamists to no date for elections are reasons for the rift. UK suspends trade talks with Israel over the new Gaza offensive. UK Foreign Minister David Lammy condemns what he calls monstrous military escalation. We decode as Netanyahu run out of options. And India's Banu Mushtaq scripts history with the International Booker win. She wins the International Booker for Heart Lamb. Okay, in yet another controversial move, I beg your pardon, Pakistan now has its second ever Field Marshal. That's General Asim Munir. He's the country's current army chief. He's now been promoted following the jaw-breaking 4-day conflict with India, where Pakistani air bases were demolished by India. It's a title that's not been awarded since 1959, but the last man to wear that rank, that is Field Marshal, Ayub Khan, used it to become a dictator. Ayub Khan's legacy casts a long shadow back in 1958. In fact, is when, amidst a huge political chaos, Ayub Khan turned on his own president after sharing tea and jokes for the cameras. That night, he staged a silent coup, and by morning, in fact, the then president, Iskandar Mirza, was exiled. Now, after 6 decades, the rank returns, but under completely different circumstances. The geopolitical tailwinds, of course, are important to note. For as many in Pakistan, the title Field Marshal carries more than just military weight. It carries history and also a warning. Meanwhile, India has taken its fight against terror global. In fact, after Operation Sindoor, the diplomatic offensive continues. Our MPs across party lines are now set to go, in fact, are in the process of being dispatched to 33 countries to continue to expose Pakistan's terror playbook, led by MPs like Aparajita Sarangi and several others. So 2 things are happening. Pakistan, which is the fountainhead of terrorism, what is it doing? It is actually crowning its army chief with a decorated designation, one that hasn't happened, a title that hasn't happened for 6 decades. What is India doing? It says Operation Sindoor continues. Right now, our focus is on completely isolating Pakistan diplomatically. And that's exactly the first story that we are debating on India Global today. I'm going to put out the big questions, and I'm going to then ask what really are the next steps in terms of India's diplomatic operations, and more importantly, how should we view what's happening in Pakistan? The first questions that are coming in: why is Pakistan rewarding a general who actually lost a war? Is it part of a Sharif army deal to block Imran Khan? Well, remember, Imran Khan and Asim Munir have history, and that history is Imran Khan sacking Asim Munir, with a lot of conversation and chatter around the possibility of Imran Khan's return. Is this a deal that will ensure that both of them continue to stay forever maybe when it comes to Asim Munir? Next, will it shield Asim Munir from any possible court-martial that may take place later over war failure? As I said, 9 Pakistani air bases demolished. The DGMO of Pakistan asking for a ceasefire because they just could not ensure that their country would be safe anymore because of how India pounded their air bases. Is this a method? Which is why we're asking the question that is this Teflon coating of Asim Munir? And the last question, is he going to be the next dictator after Ayub Khan? Well, who knows? Pakistan has a long history of having very truncated checkered democratic framework, and this could be Asim Munir's plans to ensure that he becomes a more permanent fixture in Pakistan. And to talk more on that, joining me on the show is General Anil Kumar Bhatt, who's a defense expert, and Mahesh Sachdev, who's a former ambassador. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for speaking to me. The questions are, in fact, essentially on what I just spoke. The latest developments unfolding in Pakistan, even as India is very focused on isolating Pakistan with its diplomatic outreach. And to that effect, let me first start with General Anil on this. How do you read the developments that have unfolded in Pakistan? I'm saying it's Teflon coating of Asim Munir. Do you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. You know, world over and anywhere in a democracy, armies are awarded for successful battles or operations. But we have our Western neighbor where a country has given an award or a self-award has been given for losing in a conflagration which took place. By all standards, the Indian armed forces have emphatically punished the terrorists in Pakistan and also targeted all the airfields. And thereafter, if the chief of Pakistan is being awarded for being maybe beaten, it's nothing but a joke.
Indeed, it is nothing but a joke, except that this has serious implications. Ambassador Sachdev, let me ask you, as I said, the two developments are happening parallelly. One on end, what Pakistan is doing, and on the other end, what India is doing, focused on ensuring that diplomatically it pushes the pedal on isolating Pakistan. The first set of MP delegations have already gone. And over the course of the next 2 weeks, we will see the outcomes of that in terms of how India communicates its message to every single country that matters. How do you read India's continued position as far as isolating Pakistan diplomatically?
I think it's an exercise in soft power.
Yes.
And India would like to be understood better, particularly in 11 OIC member countries, where Pakistan tries to play psychological edge of being co-religionist and member of the OIC. I would also like to add here that Indian delegations would have a task not only to convey, but also to get the feedback and to then nuance our further evolution of the soft power accordingly. So if in some places Islamic angle has to be played, this be it. In some other places, humanitarian stuff has to be pushed forth. That would be another one. In other places, terrorism would be the big no. And there it'll be, we will need to sort of augment our arguments accordingly. So all that is a very dynamic two-way exercise. And here I would also like to add that government to government, messages have always been conveyed at the Prime Minister's level, at the External Affairs Minister level, and at the diplomatic level.
Okay.
Now, very often those messages are received well with politeness, but then the people come around and say, look, our parliament is independent, our media is independent.
Of course.
We cannot run them over with your arguments. You have to do it yourself.
Okay.
And this way, we supplement the government-to-government interactions with an extra edge.
Yes. Okay. So two things. As I said, India is very clear. It wants to reach out to the existing non-permanent members of the UNSC and also the ones who will come in next year when the membership changes, excluding, of course, Pakistan and China. All delegations are going to all of those countries and in addition to OIC. But I want to come back and reflect the other development, which is the Pakistan aspect. And let's keep reflecting that on our screens as well. General Bhatt, as far as Asim Munir is concerned, the reason why, or as far as the Asim Munir Shehbaz Sharif combo is concerned, they would want to also do this to ensure that they keep Imran Khan out permanently. So it addresses their interests politically. It also, of course, secures their future. And how should we be reading, how should India be reading the Shehbaz Sharif Asim Munir combo here?
So, in the combo, it is not a combo. It's only one man. And that is...
No, it's an alignment of interest because of convenience.
Oh, yes. But the man who calls the shot is the Field Marshal. Now, that is General Asim Munir, and he will continue to call the shots. The other person is just along with him, and by matter of convenience, it happens to be that party at the moment. But definitely, as you say, coming back of Imran Khan becomes much more unlikely with the consolidation of power within the army by the chief by becoming a field marshal.
And lastly,
Now,
I want to ask you...
is it a way ahead to even become the president? One does not know. But even if he continues to be the army chief.
Yes.
He calls the shots because in Pakistan, the lone power center is the Pakistan
Absolutely.
Army.
I want to ask you this before I get in Mahesh Sachdev, which is that as he becomes Field Marshal, something that hasn't happened in 60 years, power dynamics will shift even more. He will ensure that there are no inquiries whatsoever against him now or in the future. But does that also mean a longer tenure? Because as I said, something that hasn't happened in 60 years, only second time in the country's history, you can't go back so many years in time. Explain to us the impact of him becoming Field Marshal in terms of the longevity of his tenure as the army chief.
So, firstly, if you see by trends in which were there always, many of the army chiefs have even continued longer as chiefs, or they've called themselves the executive chief, or they have later become presidents of Pakistan. So the bottom line is army being in power and the chief of the army being in power in some form or the other. Presently, what it indicates is that he, as the chief of the Pakistan army and as now an upgraded field marshal, will continue to hold power in Pakistan, and that is the person we have to deal with.
Indeed. Let's leave it there, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me on a story that has many threads. And in fact, viewers' bottom line as far as this issue is concerned is just very simple here. What Asim Munir is trying to do is protect himself. Teflon coating is what he's trying to do for himself now and for future. He's also completely and permanently changed the power dynamics in Pakistan. The army has always called the shots, but by becoming the Field Marshal, he has just cemented that even more. Does that make Shehbaz Sharif's government an even bigger puppet regime? Of course it does. The two of them are aligning to keep Imran Khan out, but it also means that any facade whatsoever that existed of a civilian government has pretty much come to an end. Asim Munir is the only power center in Pakistan. He's ensured that with his elevation as the Field Marshal. The only thing that now needs to be seen is whether he's also going to go on to become the dictator like Ayub Khan did after he became the Field Marshal. Well, in Pakistan, anything can happen because the one thing that's most checkered is their democracy and democratic traditions. All right, turning attention now to the other important story in a bold move that could rewrite India's nuclear playbook. India is set to open the doors to private and foreign operators in nuclear power, breaking decades-old monopoly. Two game-changing amendments are set to be on the tables. First is a cap on nuclear accident liability for vendors, and the second is a legal green light for private firms to run nuclear plants once the exclusive domain of state giants like NPCIL ends. In fact, automatic FDI has been allowed to the tune of 26%, and in a phased manner, approval can actually go up to 49%. Of course, controlling stake has to be with the Indian company, but the fact is, this is being allowed indicates how government now wants to reshape its energy stability, energy requirements, and also have a future outlook towards its climate commitments. And I think that's really the other piece of how it wants to rework its nuclear energy landscape. The historic pivot, of course, comes right after the US greenlit Holtec International to transfer modular reactor tech to India. And that, of course, is the other defining part. As far as US companies are concerned, they too are now cleared to co-design and build nuclear components on Indian soil. Essentially, three things need to be kept in mind, viewers. More nuclear and advanced technology related to nuclear power is set to come to India. It will ensure that maybe a nuclear energy ecosystem and supply chain develops in India. And lastly, we have greater control and power over our energy stability. All right, viewers, on that note, we slip into a very short break. We come back with more news, including the very latest as far as what's unfolding in Bangladesh between Army Chief and Mohammad Yunus. What its implications are, we come back and decode right here on India Global. Viewers, we now turn attention to Bangladesh, where tensions between Bangladesh Army Chief General, that is Waqaruzzaman, and Interim Chief Advisor Mohammad Yunus have reached, well, a boiling point. What began as a routine law and order meeting has in fact exposed a very fierce battle that's underway, not just over governance, but the soul of the country. Sources confirm that General Zaman's US trip has been cancelled amidst fears of Islamist mobilization near his residence. Fueled allegedly by Yunus's backers, one man in the shadows, Lieutenant General Mohammad Fazur Rahman, accused of pro-ISI ties and seen as Yunus's insider within the military ranks. The army is not backing down. A major raid in the capital was busted. An armed criminal gang, part of a broader push by the military to reclaim public confidence. Meanwhile, Yunus faces charges of stalling democratic elections, promoting Islamist-linked figures like Mohammad Azaz, once a top Hizbul-ul-Tahrir leader. The interim government's credibility is crumbling and the army is watching. And that's exactly what we are now going to put forth as questions to the two gentlemen joining me to discuss the parallel power centers that have emerged in Bangladesh and the implications of this. Muqtadir Rashid and Swaran Singh joining me on the broadcast. Muqtadir, let me start with you. I'm playing the questions right here for our viewers to see, but the question is really simple. There's a power tussle that's happening between the government, it's not elected, it's interim, and the army chief.
I don't think so. The army is very clear about their mission and vision. And this is not the Indian army, nor the Pakistani army. This army is
No, Indian army is a bit. No. Sorry, don't make. No, I can't let you go ahead, Muqtadir. I can't let you go ahead. No, no. I will not let you make references about the most professional army and get away with it. No, please don't. And you, no. Sir, you can keep saying anything. I'm not going to let you say. To say that, no, I'm not going to let you say. The Indian Army's reference is incorrect, unethical. Especially when you are using it in the context of Pakistan and Bangladesh Army. No. You don't want to continue on the show, you can leave it. But don't make references that you can't back with facts. Muqtadir, no. I give you all the airtime, but you can't get away by making references which are incorrect, hollow, unethical. Now you can go ahead. Do not make that reference again. The question is very simple. Your army chief and your interim advisor cannot see eye to eye because they both feel that they should be the one running the country. Don't you dare bring in Indian army in this. If you still want to answer the question, you can answer. Otherwise, it's your choice.
I can answer. Don't show your eyes like this because it's a very formal setup. It's not like a quarrel.
It's a formal setup and you should respect that as well. But go ahead.
And I say this is Bangladesh army and they are very much respectful there to the democratic transition, and they are doing this way. That's what I want to mean. I do respect your army. I do respect other.
Where is the democratic transition? Army is asking for elections. Yunus is not giving an election roadmap.
No, everyone is asking for election, other than a few. The NCP, which is the backed by this Yunus government, and some Jamaat leaders who are not looking for this. But other than everyone is looking for a free, fair, and credible election.
Why are they not happening?
And that is one. And it is not happening. It's not happening. It's not that. It's happening. It definitely will be this year, end of this year or early that year. So I'm not saying that army has any quarrel with Dr. Yunus, but there are some confusion about the humanitarian corridor. And of
Humanitarian
course,
corridor, there is a problem. Then there is a
yeah.
problem with regard to the BDR mutineers. Then there is a problem with regard to Islamist radicals who've been freed, who've been mainstreamed. Yunus
No,
is
they have
running
not
some
been
sort of a
the-
regime which even the army chief feels is just
You are
too
saying
extreme.
everything. You are saying everything. Let me explain it. They are not mainstreaming. There are some, serious kind of repression by the Hasina regime. They put anyone who disagree with her notion. So that is why a lot of people were in jail, and many of them are convicted without any fair trial. So we know about that. The reason is why Sheikh Hasina left. You know very well about that. But now we are talking about the election, and a free election is very crucial for Bangladesh and democratic transition. I hope India is also looking for a peaceful transition of power. And of course,
No, India
what
is
I want to
waiting and
argue
watching,
is,
Muqtadir, and that's
yes,
why I was giving
and
you all
what
the time. But I'll tell you the
Yes.
7 instances, and I want to get in Professor Singh on this as well. 7 core reasons why there is a clear conflict between the army chief and Mohammad Yunus. Election delays being one of them. 300 convicted for killing army officers in 2009 released. Islamist radicals, 400 of them mainstream released. Then, of course, there is the power corridor in the humanitarian corridor in Myanmar that Muqtadir talked about. Then ban on Awami League, which of course many feel that if you ban the main opposition party, what kind of election are you really going to have? In addition to that are the rival army leadership bids. Professor Singh, I've listed all these points out. How do you see the internal tussle that is taking place in Bangladesh, and how do you see its security implications?
I think, first of all, we should stop denying that there are no tensions between the army chief and the chief advisor. The meeting yesterday that happened in the state guest house, Jamuna, was aimed at simply army chief asking Dr. Yunus to have some kind of a plan of action as to when he plans to hold elections. He has gone public saying that there is likelihood of greater danger emerging and then insisting that we should have elections. Army chief has to make arrangements that protesters don't come near his office, near his home. What is this? I mean, one after another. Forget about Sheikh Hasina, that's past now. Since August last year, it is the chief advisor who's been placed on the helm. And, his simple job was to make sure that he brings stability in Bangladesh as soon as possible with the support of armed forces and organizes general elections as soon as possible so that a public mandate can bring another regime to power. And things have been happening very strange in terms of decisions he's taking, erasing the entire history of Awami League, including disbanding Awami League, building relations with Pakistan in a very, very, ahistorical way. ISI chief visiting, meeting, army being trained by Pakistanis, Chinese team visiting Lal Monir Khat recently. Again the news about whether that airbase is going to be used by Chinese.
Indeed.
These are not decisions that he's supposed to take. He's simply meant to be an interim chief advisor.
And I
to
think the
simply
best
make sure
person, and I think this was communicated best when the French President Emmanuel Macron refused to have a bilateral with Mohammad Yunus because he doesn't represent the people of Bangladesh. He's an interim advisor expected to pave the way for a democratically elected, stable government that will last 5 years. And I think that's the reason why that message came in from France. As I said, parallel power centers in Bangladesh, and India needs to be very careful of the security implications there. All right, I'll have to leave it there, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me. On that note, we slip into a quick break. We come back on the other side, talk more about Netanyahu's fate that's now hanging in balance. Stay with us. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is facing a political reckoning. Mounting pressure from Israel's allies, including the UK, France, Canada, and now, of course, US. Well, Trump is forcing a potentially historic pivot. On Tuesday, Britain, what it did was it suspended trade talks and sanctioned Israeli settler outposts, calling Israel's blockade of aid to Gaza as indefensible. But it's Trump's shift that stings the most, doesn't it? Once Netanyahu's key ally, he now urges an end to the war, marking a seismic shift in the US-Israel dynamics. Netanyahu's far-right allies threaten to bring down the government if more aid flows into Gaza. But international isolation is also growing. With elections looming and negotiations with Hamas faltering, the Prime Minister now stands at a crossroads. Continue a war he may not be able to win, or end it and risk losing power. Listen in.
Let me separately address the question of Gaza, because it is a really serious, unacceptable, intolerable situation.
On Gaza, the humanitarian situation in Gaza is unacceptable.
Is unacceptable. Israel must stop now immediately. The Hamas needs to release immediately all the hostage.
Therefore, today, I'm announcing that we have suspended negotiations with this Israeli government on a new free trade agreement.
ממשלה שאומרת שאפשר להפקיר חטופים וצריך להרעיב ילדים, זו ממשלה שנשמעת כמו דובר חמאס. ממשלה שמדברת על פצצת אטום בעזה היא לא ממשלה יהודית והיא בטח לא ציונית.
One thing is clear, for Netanyahu, the political battlefield may soon be more dangerous than the military one in which he's trying to get more gains. To talk more on this, let me quickly now rope in Eril Kahana, who's joining me to represent essentially the Israeli side of it. She's joining us from Jerusalem. And there is Omar Anas, who's a Middle East expert. He's joining us from Turkey. Eril, let me start by getting your view out right now. One can debate the statistics, whether it is 14,000 children or 10,000 children, or whether it's these many number of people who are struggling to get food or that many. But the fact that those visuals, those pictures are there, they're moving people around the world, which is why Israel may be losing a lot of the support that it had at the beginning of this war.
So, war is never pleasant, but unfortunately this war is taking place for now more than a year and a half, because it began with an awful attack, unbelievable, horrible attack by Hamas on our civilians, on our cities, on our villages, slaughtering babies, killing women, pregnant women, raping them, and really unbelievable scenes, which, by the way, were broadcast live on Telegram and other networks. And people who would like to see what happens then can still find it. It's really unbelievable. Israel, the state of Israel, the Jewish people cannot let this organization, Hamas, which is an extreme Islam organization, we just cannot let them stay in that area in Gaza, because as long as they are still there, and by the way, even at this moment, while you and I are talking, I know the Israeli intelligence know they prepare new attacks against our places, our villages, and so on. So we have actually two options. One is to let them stay and let them make the next attack.
Okay.
I think, and the other one is to defeat them. Now it's a war. It's very hard. And by the way, they can surrender now, give back our 59 hostages they still hold after a year and a half, and the war will end.
I do not.
No other options, two different options.
I do not dispute anything that you said. It did start with Hamas. It did see 3-month-old babies being put in oven and being killed like that, burnt to death, and 59 Israeli hostages are still with Hamas. I'm not disputing any of that. And that is something that the world backs Israel on completely. But the fact is, where do you draw the line?
That's still the case. That's it.
No, where do you draw the... This is about aid, sir. This is about aid. And that's why I want to, ask the other side, which is to get Omar on this, that the fundamental issue, Omar, is that what the Israelis feel, that if they allow any reprieve, it will just mean that Hamas will regroup and come back and attack. That's the sum and substance of their argument. How do you give comfort to Israel that while this war may be going on, aid has to flow in? And where do you find that distinction?
Look, I think that this war is no longer, at this stage, is no longer about Hamas. It is, if we see the strategy which Netanyahu is following, he is not trying to destroy Hamas. And by the way, let me also remind our friend here, is that it is Israel who had supported Hamas in 1980s against PLO.
First of all,
Hamas-
Mr. Anas, I have a request, and that request is to both of you. You want to go back in time, we can go back all the way. But that doesn't solve the problem, right? Because you and I are sitting in studios and sitting in comfortable rooms. There are 59 Israeli hostages who haven't seen daylight in almost 19 months. And there are these children in Gaza who are facing starvation. Let's be very clear. Let's not go back in time. Let's now talk about trying to find some sort of a solution, and also in the wake of the diplomatic isolation that Israel is facing. Yes, Mr. Anas, I want to understand from you that are there any options left on the table to solve this?
To be very honest, the only option is left is that Netanyahu must declare a ceasefire, even unilaterally, because the international opinion and most of the European countries, they are now convinced that this war is no longer about Hamas. Israel has achieved everything against Hamas. Israel has already killed the maximum number of leadership, the top leadership, even a large number of their soldiers as well. Now it is the civilians who are being victimized and who are suffering at this time. So I think that this is the main problem. Why is Netanyahu is not declaring a ceasefire? Why he is not agreeing to a ceasefire? He has political compulsions. He has domestic challenges. So he is using this war for his survival.
And let me put that out. I want to play some of those graphics again, which talk about what could be the next options as far as the Israeli Prime Minister is concerned. The fact that his government could in fact fall because the far right want this to continue. The fact that US will or may withdraw support, leaving Israel completely isolated. The fact that there was a big Middle East tour which did not include Israel. Those limit the options, Ariel, doesn't it, for Mr. Netanyahu?
So it's not about political interest here inside Israel, and it's not about, God forbid, it's not about civilians in Gaza, not at all. By the way, the one who are torturing, even in these days, the civilians in Gaza are Hamas, are the Hamas people. I don't know if you know, but every day there are a lot of, you can see it on the social media, but also in the streets in Gaza, people demonstrating against Hamas. People in Gaza are calling Hamas to stop the war, because Hamas is the one to use civilians, he's using Palestinian civilians to kill Israeli civilians. That's the way this horrible organization is working. Now, every person in the world who doesn't want the extremism to win, who doesn't want terror to win, who doesn't want horrible actions, as we saw in the beginning on the first day of this war happening, should join and support Israel with this war. Just you showed the British Prime Minister. It's just as if we will say to Churchill, in Second World War, know what, Mr. Churchill, stop in the middle of the way. No, this war will be end at one point when we will get back our people, and when Hamas will be defeated. We have just no other choice.
So which brings me to ask this question to Omar, which is that you essentially that's I wouldn't say that that's the voice of the government, but it represents the large part of the Israeli opinion, which is that you've got to give us our hostages, this war will end. Why is Hamas not ending this war by giving those hostages? Because if Mr. Netanyahu is willing to go ahead, even when he faces global censure, it means that the international community can only do so much as well. It's got to be those hostages.
In previously all negotiations, what we know is that Hamas had completely agreed to surrender all of the hostages in stage by stage in return of different compromises, and Israeli side had also offered these kind of compromises. So I think that in principle, Hamas had already declared that they are completely ready to provide all sorts of concessions. So there is no dispute about the fact that Hamas is ready to give back all the hostages. Now the issue is whether Netanyahu is willing to stop the war. Now the ball is in the court of Netanyahu. He is not agreeing. And by the way, if you see what is happening in Europe and how the European countries are now evaluating the situation, and especially if you see President Trump, he is feeling like betrayed by Netanyahu because he had put so much energy to convince Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates and other countries for Abraham Accord. President Trump is seeing as if his entire vision of Abraham Accord is being defeated by Netanyahu. He is blocking. He is the only person who is blocking the Abraham Accord, and he is the person who has stopped the Saudi-Israeli normalization.
I'm sorry, but all that is just ridiculous.
Okay.
Netanyahu and Trump, and I was there personally. There's one who made the Abraham Accord. There's one who wants now to go on with the Abraham Accord. But all the countries of the Abraham Accord, including the UAE and Bahrain and many other Arab countries, all of them, and by the way, Western countries as well, all of them support, and of course the US, all of them support the Israeli goal to eliminate Hamas.
No.
This region cannot survive as long as Hamas is still here. That's the point.
I don't think that distinction has clearly emerged as clearly in the Israeli political leadership as it should, that the war against Hamas and the battle against the people of Gaza, particularly the children, as I said, are two different things. I'm going to leave it there. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on India Global. Well, at the end of the day, bottom line, viewers, is that for Benjamin Netanyahu, there is a lot that's riding, everything from political survival to the survival of the 59 hostages that continue to remain in Hamas's captivity after 19 months of when the war started. But with limited or maybe very few diplomatic options really on the table, will he be forced to come out with some sort of a ceasefire? Or will he try and play Trump administration just like President Putin has been able to do so for several months? Well, no one has the answer, but limited time is available, at least for the people of Gaza who need food, and they need it now. Well, viewers, on that note, I'm going to slip into a very short break, come back with more news on the other side. Stay with us. In troubling new twist that threatens regional stability and sovereignty, China and Pakistan are now dragging Afghanistan into the controversial China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. It's a project long accused of being Beijing's neo-colonial Trojan horse. In Beijing this week, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi and Pakistani Deputy Prime Minister Ishaq Dar peddled economic promises to Afghanistan's Taliban regime, all under the guise of development. Taliban's Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muhtaki emphasized the need for a comprehensive solution to the challenges faced by Afghan traders, particularly in exporting agri-products. And he also reaffirmed Afghanistan's commitment to ensuring that its territory will never be used against neighboring countries. Now, this is very important. As far as Afghanistan's comment is concerned, where he has said that their territory will never be used against neighboring countries. Who are they sending a message? They're sending a message to Pakistan. Against whom? India. This is the strongest possible message that's coming from Afghanistan, that Pakistan cannot use an inch of Afghanistan to counter or to try and use it against India. And I think that's the most important point. As far as CPEC is concerned, it's been a non-starter. It will remain so. Roping in Afghanistan is not going to change it. But Afghanistan's clear message to Pakistan should be noted by Islamabad and the Pakistani army. All right, turning attention now to the other very important story, which is something that impacts all of us. Google has launched a new AI-powered search engine that embeds chatbot capabilities directly into its main platform. And the AI mode aims to give users conversational and expert-level responses while reducing the need to sift through multiple web pages. CEO Sindhu Pichai has said that the shift marks a major evolution in search technology, and Google also teased new AI-powered glasses, reigniting its push into smart wearables. Analysts have warned that the change could reshape how the tech giant earns revenue going forward through search as a category. Even Mehta joins me to talk more about what is the impact of this for consumers like you and me. At some point in time, this will, of course, come to India. Right now, it's in the US. It's a dramatic shift, isn't it, in the way we use Google. And it also means that some of the third-party websites that were very important till now will probably become redundant, let's say, the moment this becomes the new normal.
Oh, definitely. And we have seen strides from Google in this direction from last year. AI overviews, which were in US, were rolled out in India. And Sundar Pichai, even during the keynote yesterday, mentioned that India was one of the key markets for search. Now, what's happening with Google search is that naturally ChatGPT, Perplexity, all these different kind of new modes of search are having kind of causing a dent in Google's universe. It's not a seismic shift until now, but they know that more and more people are using these tools. On the other hand, there is US also is pushing the regulatory norms on Google, saying that Google is monopoly and in ads, in search, in multiple ways, and trying to take up Google. So Google understands that it needs to change a lot from very link-based approach, and that's why this is the way that they are doing it.
Okay, one is from the company's point of view, which is that they are looking to, in fact, have this as a major revenue stream. But what about consumers? Explain to us the tectonic shift this will mean for consumers, you and me, and those watching this broadcast.
So for consumers, obviously, Google wants us to stick with Google. So they don't want us to go to different websites. They want us to be in the same interface. Like if you use ChatGPT as a consumer, you don't click out as much as you did with the traditional search. So that's what Google is trying to do. That be in our page, will give you all the answers, will click you out, and you got it right, like rightly you mentioned. This impact third-party websites and websites, especially of publishers as well. Fewer people might click on news. Fewer people might go to how-to sites. Fewer people might look at reviews as good as they're getting the summary. The very structure of web, where websites got revenue from ads, that is changing, and Google obviously has a big part to play in ads. So they are driving this change to suit them right now, and to suit the changing needs of consumers as well. So what they want us to do as consumers is be on one page of Google, ask different questions about shopping, about travel, about finding different information. The AI mode also has deep research for reasoning and finding out in-depth answers. It also incorporates Project Mariner, which can conduct multiple searches in one way to look for something.
Okay, let's leave it there. Even Mehta, at the end of the day, Google wants you to be on their platform and their platform only for everything that you need to do as far as internet is concerned. Will that mean that they will have at some point of time deal with Competition Commission in India and somewhere else? Well, it remains to be seen, as big tech always ends up being in the scanner. On that note, a quick take of some of the other important stories that's coming in. First up, Banu Mushtaq has become the first Kannada writer to win the coveted International Booker Prize on Tuesday in London, along with the £50,000 prize pool. She received the honour for her short story collection, Heart Lamp. The book was translated by Deepa Bhashti from Kannada to English. Mushtaq described this as a collective win of diversity while receiving the award at Tata Modern London. Heart Lamp was amongst the 6 titles shortlisted by judges. They described the book as witty, vivid and deeply moving. In fact, Mushtaq, who has donned multiple hats during her time, is throughout her life displayed a collection of 12 short stories in the book written between 1990 and 2023. The stories reflect her background as a journalist and an advocate, while focusing on the indomitable spirit of women fighting for their rights and demanding justice.
If I may borrow a phrase from my own culture, this moment feels like 1,000 fire files lighting up a single sky, brief, brilliant, and utterly collective. To even stand among these extraordinary finalists is an honor to me. I will never forget, and I accept this great honor not as an individual, but as a voice raised in chorus with so many others.
In addition to rampant unemployment, the job market also had a setback with a large number of tech layoffs in 2024. But the salary of this Indian origin executive has taken the internet by storm. This lucky guy is Vaibhav Taneja. The chief financial officer of Tesla earned a staggering $139 million in 2024. With this number, he overtook industry icons like Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella and Google's Sundar Pichai. Nadella earned $79 million and Pichai pocketed about $10.7 $7 million. This marks the highest salary for a CFO in decades. Although this news has also raised concerns because Tesla has been battling with the biggest sales decline since 2012. Well, on that note, it's a complete timeout on this edition of India Global. Thanks so very much for watching.